And call the meeting to order. This is a public hearing, and the purpose of this public hearing is to receive public input on the consideration of a proposed rezoning request from DT Ventures 2 LLC. Okay. Miss Anna?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. What I'll be bringing to you today is a planning area map amendment request for 3264 Old Cullowhee Road, property identification number 57559451434, and a portion of the adjoining property 7559452354. The applicant for this request is DT Ventures LLC, who is the owner of both properties. The applicant is requesting a map amendment that would reassign the subject property from institutional to commercial.
Now, remind me where this is, Anna, please.
So this is right off of Old Cullowhee Road.
I
So
see the cemetery.
Yeah, the bottom right corner is the
Yes.
old restaurant down there.
Yes,
Mhm.
thank you.
Yeah.
So it's off of Old Cullowhee Road and was formerly used as the parsonage for Cullowhee Baptist Church until their change in property ownership. The site is roughly 3/4 of an acre, and the existing residential structure on the property is 1,910 square feet. In addition to this map amendment includes a 850 square foot portion of the adjoining property due to an overlap in the current zoning. So you can see that little triangle of overlap right there. This is the existing zoning map. The abutting properties to the north, east, and northeast are all in the commercial district of the Cullowhee Planning Area jurisdiction, and the abutting property to the west is in the institutional district. If this map amendment were approved, this is what the zoning map would look like. You can see that commercial district running all the way down Old Cullowhee Road. The difference between the commercial district and the institutional are the types of uses that each allow. The current property designation of institutional allows limited uses to single-family, multifamily dwellings, and semi-public uses such as churches and gathering spaces, and some recreational uses, while the commercial district offers a broader range of uses such as residential, multifamily, recreational, governmental, offices, and retail. The planning department has not received any plans for development on this site, but any new development on the subject property would require compliance with ordinance standards such as sidewalk construction, setbacks, landscaping, parking, and signage. Staff findings to this request are that the requested map amendment does not constitute as spot zoning, as the abutting properties are currently designated as commercial. The request map amendment is consistent with the Jackson County Comprehensive Plan, and the requested map amendment is consistent with the Cullowhee Small Area Plan and future land map, as the commercial district permits a wide variety of commercial uses and residential uses that are aligned with the goals of the Campus Edge District and the River District, which this property is within. The Cullowhee Planning Council held a public hearing for this map amendment, and the Jackson County Planning Board also heard this application and both unanimously recommended that the Board of Commissioners consider approval for this map amendment. And that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Anna about this topic?
You said the same person owns these 3 parcels?
These two.
Oh, these 2.
Right here.
So it used to be owned by the Cullowhee Baptist Church?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I see, okay. And that's the Old Moss General Store?
Any other questions concerning what's being proposed? Okay. Is there anyone online first? Let me ask that question. Anyone online that would like to speak to this? Is there anyone here in the audience today that would like to speak concerning this public hearing? Okay. Hearing none then, do I have a motion we adjourn the public hearing? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed nay. The ayes have it.
So are you gonna have Boyce or me read this older Americans?
like to do it?
We're the oldest.
Is her name Anna?
Yes.
Anna did a good job. Thank you. I don't even know, what is it?
Being the senior member of our. Or do you want me to?
Yeah, I'll read. You want me to start reading it right now?
Oh, wait just a second. Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order of the Jackson County Board of Commissioners today, May 3rd, 2022. First item of business today is a proclamation, and I think Commissioner Dietz is going to present to us a proclamation today honoring older Americans. Commissioner Dietz?
I don't know why y'all asked me.
If you hadn't figured that one out, then
Proclamation honoring older Americans. Whereas Jackson County is home to an estimated 11,727 in the 60-plus population, and whereas the older adults in Jackson County are among millions helping to redefine aging in America, and whereas older adults are entitled to live healthier lives through a combination of independence and choice, and whereas older adults need the assistance of their communities to thrive, including the understanding and support for their friends and family. And whereas coordinated efforts to provide support on issues as diverse as housing, transportation, health care can be vital to healthy aging and long-term living. And whereas the aging population is growing and offered more wisdom to succeeding generations. Now, therefore, the Jackson County Board of Commissioners proclaims the month of May as Older American Month. Date, May 3rd, 2022. Brian Thomas, Chairman. Brian Thomas, did you change your name?
yep, Brian Thomas.
Brian McMahon. Thank you.
All right, we have the proclamation been presented by Commissioner Dietz, and he's put that forward as a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. And we have Eddie Wells with us with our Department on Aging. And so, Eddie, if you'd like to come up, we'll present you a copy of this proclamation. And would you like a photo?
It's up to y'all.
Yeah, well, let's do it.
Sure.
You get right there with him. The older ones.
No, I don't even need to get into it.
No. Now, wait a minute.
Always like to do that to mess up the camera.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank
Troubles.
you.
Absolutely, it's right here.
Okay, the first item today is the approval of the agenda. We do have modification to the agenda. I'd like to remove item 6, safety discussions. We are not prepared today to present that information. And in its place, we will replace that item 6 with conflict of interest policy. That is going to be a new policy. You should have a copy at your station that we will talk about today. Any other changes to the agenda? Hearing none then, is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Okay, is there a second? All right, any question or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next is the approval of the minutes, and we have one set of minutes, and that is our regular meeting minutes from April the 19th, 2022. After having had a chance to review those as distributed by the clerk, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 19th as presented.
Okay, have a motion. Is there a second? Any question or discussion? If not, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next is our administrative reports. As far as the chairman's report, the only thing I'll mention tonight, I did really enjoy the opportunity this past weekend. It was a beautiful weekend here in Jackson County. And I know Saturday evening, the Little League 65th anniversary. And I had a great concert down at Mark Watson Park. Matt Stillwell, a local, born and bred here in Jackson County, a great young man. I went to school with Matt. Came back and did a hometown concert tour, and a lot of young folks, a lot of Little League supporters, a lot of families, and several of us were there. And it was just a great evening to be in Silva and in Jackson County and enjoy what makes this place such a great place. So I just wanted to say how much I really appreciated that. Commissioner Dietz, I'll start with you on this side this time. Any reports?
Yes, sir. I would like to thank all the citizens that last few weeks been picking up garbage and trash and everything in the world on the side of the roads. It's very obvious that they're doing that, and I know Saturday they were working up on Skyland Drive. And Lord of mercy, they put in a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of bags of trash. And just today now I see them mowing the sides of the highways, and it's awful nice to see them mow the roads. The only thing that you see coming out is grass and not trash and whatever.
Exactly, absolutely.
Good thing.
Yeah. Commissioner Woody?
Yes, I have two things. One is that I attended the Parks and Recreation Board meeting, and I just wanted to say that it's so exciting when our director, Rusty Ellis, presented the fact that there are two things on the long-term plan that were left, that weren't finished. And one was the pool, which we're moving ahead on, and the other is a park in the Qualla Whittier area, which we also are moving ahead on. And I want to especially thank his staff for applying for a grant with a very short turnaround. And it's just great to see that, because I wasn't on the board when y'all adopted that long-range plan, but to see it come to fruition is a wonderful thing. And then secondly, Sunday is graduation, and it's also Mother's Day, and I just want to give a shout out to all the mothers, and we all appreciate our mothers and the legacy that they have been for us, and those of us that are mothers appreciate that special day as well. But with graduation, I have been so impressed with the number of students that I've run into in just this last month who have been doing internships, been working at United Christian Ministries, at the Genealogical Society. I've run into them picking up trash along the roads. The impact that Western Carolina students have on our community is positive in many ways. And I want to wish the best to all those that are graduating.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones?
Just a brief comment. In just a couple of weeks, our traffic in the southern end of the county is going to start going crazy. I noticed today the traffic was backed up considerably from the red light at 107 and 64. And I just would encourage, I know Commissioner McMahon's, or Chairman McMahon's on the planning board with DOT. And anything we can do to work on a roundabout and urge our DOT, and I've had conversations with some engineers on that. So I just want to, any opportunity we have, we need to do everything we can to get that traffic and pedestrian safety. And I do have to congratulate Mr. Adams and Rusty with the new sidewalk that's going to go up in the Catchers area. That's all the main sidewalks we can get up there. It'll make that place a little safer.
Commissioner Striblin?
I don't have a report this week, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we'll move on to our county manager, Mr. Adams.
Yes, sir. No formal report today, but I do have a little slideshow for the board. And so ultimately, just board's information. Last night, the county did appear before the Colaway Planning Council for the architectural review process for the pool, the Aquatic Center that's being built there. And I am happy to say that it was well received and approved to proceed forward from the Planning Council itself. And so what I thought I would do would just provide you all some information in regards to what was presented to the Planning Council themselves. So, now again, I can see this. So, I believe you've seen several of these renditions, but just go through this relatively quickly. Ultimately, just a reminder to the board, this is a 30,000 plus addition to our 20,000 plus existing facility. We are talking about two pools, a 6-lane lap pool and also a leisure pool. We will have some party rooms there. We're also looking at 2 sets of bathrooms that will have saunas, showers, and things of that nature. And then obviously a new lobby and entrance area. So let's just jump to the aerial photo that was presented. Again, this is the existing facility, and all of this is the new facility being added. As you can see, we're also talking about additional parking on the other side of the facility. And what's not shown in here, we are looking to enhance some of this back parking back here in order to provide additional parking. Just so everybody knows, we do have this pick up and drop off area that we'll talk a little bit about as we proceed forward, that we think will be utilized quite a bit by parents with their kids. I will say that your recreation director did a good job presenting yesterday, and I'm going to pick on him a little bit. He wore pants yesterday, and we were all impressed. So today he decided to wear shorts. He's not going to be called upon, but so if you heard him laughing over there, that's what they were saying. He plotted to wear shorts today. So this is just a rendition of the main entrance. Just orientate everybody. Baseball fields are over in this section. This is the older facility, existing facility, and this is the existing parking lot. Ultimately, we'll have a new main entrance, and again, we believe the Colwood Planning Council was impressed and pleased with the architecture that's put into this facility, the time and thought. This right here, I'll go back and kind of orient you where you're at. If everybody's familiar with the basketball courts, and then that little pavilion on the backside here, and then there's a playground area. What we're looking at is you're standing about where my pointer is, looking back towards the pools. So all of this glass right here that you see in this next picture is basically that right there.
Nice.
And so ultimately, Mr. Ellis did mention something. I need to share it with you at some point. We have some renditions that show this facility at nighttime. So it'll show how it'll be lit up. And it's very impressive, too. I'll bring that back to you just so you'll see. And I think, this is an 18-month construction period. So we'll keep bringing this information back on occasion just to remind people what we're looking to build. I'll skip over this section. This is the main entrance. This was getting more into the exterior design of what we were talking to with the Planning Council itself as far as the materials. Just going inside, this is the main entrance. Looking to the right, when you walk in, that's towards the pool area. If you step in, that's still the same angle. If you walk back here, it'll take you to the pool and to the bathrooms and the locker rooms. This is the other way. This hallway takes you down to the existing facility itself, just giving you another angle on the lobby area. Again, this is walking back towards the backside of the pool and taking you into one set of the bathrooms. You go into the bathrooms, we have a series of lockers, as we talked about before. Obviously, bathrooms themselves, we have showers themselves, and just a series of amenities in the room. I do like that we don't show it here, and Wesley had pointed it out yesterday. We do have adjacent to both of the locker rooms, we have 2 family rooms. So if you don't want to take your young child into a locker room setting, but you need to take them in for changing and things of that nature, there are a couple of rooms that are outside of these locker room areas that that allow for somebody, if I had a young daughter, if I didn't want to take them to the male locker room, then I have access to facilities to take them in and change and things of that nature. That's something I forgot about. The rest of you pointed out yesterday, and I thought was a nice amenity. This is the 6-lane lap pool. We do have a climbing wall. On this end is the starting area for the competition. We also will have a diving board that we can use there when obviously there's no competition. We do have ADA accessibility. This is a ramp that comes into the lap pool itself. We are looking to have a LED screen. A couple of things as far as this pool, the touch pads themselves, the timers, are integrated in the pool itself. So there are, if you recall, we talked about this before, there will be no cables pulled across the pool deck, things of that nature. And then that'll be integrated with an LED here. So obviously we'll have the video for timing and things of that nature. But that's also where Russ and his staff can have movie nights at this area. This is the shallow end of the pool, so you can have little party areas and movie nights on the LED screen. And there's also advertising opportunities there, whether it be for events and things of that nature. Obviously, with an LED screen, you can basically put anything on that screen. You're not limited to anything. This is just showing the party rooms. So ultimately, go back. If you walk through this set of doors, this is the lap pool. You can actually see through these windows here, basically to the leisure pool. And this is the walkway to take you to the leisure pool. When you walk through, those are their set of doors that I was just pointing at. And then the party rooms are on the back side of the leisure pool. And then this is standing on the other side end of the leisure pool. Party rooms are right where my pointer is. And then ultimately you can see, you don't see here, but I'll show you another area where there is a vortex, some basketball goals here. This is a volleyball net. You do have a splash pad area back here and things of that nature for the leisure pool side of things. And if the board will bear with me, I did show one other element to the council that you all have seen a version of this, but I thought I'd just take you through it real quick. And this is a virtual walkthrough of the facility itself. Now, instead of waiting for it to walk through, I'm just going to kind of drag us through it so we can walk through the facility a little bit quicker. This is the front entrance area. So as you're walking up, one of the things I like to note is if you look to the right there, you see those benches on the outside. Those are built-in benches right here. That ultimately, this is meant to be a pickup and drop-off zone. So if you recall, we try to have a lot of seating area outside, covered and uncovered, so there's not a bunch of wet kids standing around in the lobby constantly. They'll have an area to go instead of just staying in the lobby itself. If you just walk up, you can see right there, there's another set of benches here that kind of go underneath the covered area a little bit. This will take you into the main entrance. As you walk in the main entrance, obviously you see the new desk. And then if you look to your left, that's basically taking you to the existing facility itself. If you, I'm not really controlling where we're going, I'm just controlling the speed of things. You look to your right, and then that is the entrance taking you to the pool area. One of the things I didn't point out on the, see if I can take us to it, point out on the schematics, is right here is a separate entrance that takes you into the lap pool itself. So when there's competitions, the spectators do not have to walk through the locker room area. They can just go straight into the competition area. And to the left there, you can barely see it as a built-in concession stand area. And so just walking on down this hallway, dry corridor, this will take you into the bathrooms themselves. So here's the women's restroom, locker room. To the left there would be the sauna. If you walk on in, you can see the showers. And then just walking through, this is relatively how it will look as far as the tile and colors. Quite a bit of locker room area. I believe you said there's over 60. Is that correct? Right, Rusty. So there should be plenty there. If you recall, we had that conversation about not limiting the locker room, so the amount of lockers, so that when we have competition, kids will have access to the lockers themselves. This takes you out into the pool area. Obviously, there's a hallway that this is. If you look, me see if it takes me to the left. If I were to look to the left right here, that's actually those double doors that'll take you out to the concession stand area that I was pointing out. And then this will take you into the competition area. Now you can see the bleachers here. Ultimately, just walk you around a little bit. You can see the climbing wall right there.
Is that removable, Don? Or,
The climbing wall there.
no, I see.
What about the bleachers? Good.
What, those retractable?
No, they're just the aluminum bleachers.
Oh, okay.
So if we had to have anything, it needed that deck space, for I was thinking about the back patio.
Okay.
But more or less, we'll have typical bleachers.
I see.
So as we're coming through, this will take you over to the leisure pool area itself. And this is right here where I want to stop. That if you look to the left and see the round vortex pool, that will have the water will flow in a direction that allows for resistance in that pool, so you can do training and aerobics and things of that nature. As you can see, obviously right there, the volleyball net that people would play on. Rusty did point out, if you look, we do try to have enough seating around for people to have seating and lounge areas around this leisure pool side. And then just walking up there, we have had some design changes I want to point out to the board. I can pause it. Right now, you see a separation between this main pool and this splash pad area. Due to health department regulations, we've actually had to open this whole area up. So there's actually one set of stairs that will come completely across the splash pad area that'll lead into the 2'6" level of water. But this was interesting when we went through this. This is zero entry up here. And then once you come to those set of stairs, it actually drops you into about 2.6 and then transitions into 3 feet. And that's something that we really weren't planning on having. But when we made that modification, Rusty, you talk about it's a nice, if you think about it, when I remember when I had a kid, that it's a nice transition when you think about 2'6" down to 3 foot to where a 4 to 5 year old will be waist deep to chest deep. So when you start talking about getting people used to water and trying to train them and so forth, it really is a nice transition from very shallow 6 inches down to 2.6, obviously with some stairs, and then a nice little transition. And Rusty, do you think?
Also, with our swim lessons for those younger age kids as well.
Oh, yeah.
Area that we actually have a swim, learn to swim program in that little area is now created that we didn't have opportunity for.
That's great. What is the white thing, Don?
It's a waterfall. It's actually
Oh.
looking waterfall.
Yeah.
The whole
Nice.
concept of the whole thing was the nature of the
Yes.
mountains. So that waterfall is actually rock based, as well as some of the features which is not shown in this rendition. There's actually some rock drops as well that actually has spray fountains out of it also.
Nice.
It's actually like a sheet of water that comes down.
Okay. Fun.
So as we were just walking through, obviously we'll have a lot of light, natural light coming into this facility. There's your little basketball goals. And the last thing I'm going to stop about right here that I really do think it's going to be a well-used amenity. I'll walk a little bit closer. Is now this rendition doesn't quite show it, but this is going to be a little bit higher, more solid wall to where you can't actually jump over. But that's going to be a patio space where we'll have tables and things of that nature. Where people, if you want to go out and get some sunshine, you literally can just walk out and eat your lunch or something out there. And I think that's going to be a well-used space. I think that'll be premium space for a lot of people who are there and at the leisure pool, but also want to get out and get some natural sun. And then that's just stepping out onto the patio, and that's the end. So to talk about the timeline so far is just a reminder to the board. I did hand out some information to you. We went through a pre-qualification process, and this is a fairly stringent process. We pre-qualified contractors in order to bid for this project. So if you see who has been pre-qualified is Harper Construction out of Asheville, FM Blum out of Asheville, Winston-Salem, Hickory Construction out of Hickory, Elford Construction out of Charlotte, H&M Constructors out of Asheville. And so they have all been qualified. The qualification process is going through making sure they're licensed appropriately. They can insurance themselves. They have the capability to handle these types of projects. We are currently out to bid for this project, and bids are due to be received and open at 3 p.m. on June 3rd. And so ultimately, I give you that little bit of preliminary information because you see later on in the agenda, you see that we'll start talking about not only the indoor pool, but primarily later in the agenda, what we're going to talk about is the financing aspect of the pool and how it relates to our timelines and our bid opening and things of that nature. So, Mr. Chairman, that's my report.
Any other questions or comments for the manager?
Oh, I do want to mention one thing. Good work with our attorney. We did close on that Quala property.
Good.
We it was that property had quite a bit of heirs to it, um, and so it was fairly complex and a lot of research. And I can tell you, Heather has worked on this quite a while, and Miss Baker, and so that property is now owned by Jackson County, and did it just in time for our deadline for part of the grant application, which you was mentioning earlier.
Yes.
That our staff worked really hard to get that application in. So hopefully, we'll be awarded a grant to proceed forward with that project. Thank you. And there's no one signed up to speak, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anyone here in the audience that would like to speak today in a public comment section? Would you like to, if you would, just come forward to the podium?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. Hearing none, then we'll move on to our new business. The first item is the WCU Student Capstone Project. This is addressing the need for opioid intervention. Mr. Woody, would you like to introduce this item?
Okay. I had the privilege of hearing these students present their capstone project, and because we are going to be getting some opioid settlement money, and the other fact that they're graduating Sunday and won't be around anymore, I just felt it was timely for us to hear. And they had done a lot of research, and it would be just information that will help us as we move forward with some of our discussions. Did you bring a flash drive?
We actually have a computer.
Oh, okay. Can they plug that in or no?
It's okay.
No.
We can just talk about it.
Okay. They had an amazing PowerPoint. I guess it can't go online.
Got it on flash drive? Do you have a USB?
No, I don't.
You got one of those Chrome?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's okay.
I got covered.
Yeah. And this is Simon, and I'm going to let him introduce everyone.
Good afternoon, commissioners and audience, commission attorneys. My name is Simon, as Mr. Gail Woody said, and these are my two other group members, Maggie and Sienna.
So we had some kind of statistics on everything, so I'll let Simon start with that.
So before we start, I'd like to ask everyone here, has anyone experienced a loved one or a family member with the complications of opioid use or substance abuse disorder? And it's very prevalent in today's society, especially today, right now, with COVID-19 being almost finished, and we're still rattling with all the pandemic and all the social distancing and all the lockdowns, that people sometimes use substance abuse to get away from it all. And our proposal here is a loan forgiveness program so that students who are majoring in healthcare fields want to pursue an addiction counseling, therapists, addiction therapists, working in those addiction facilities, they'll be able to have financial backing to actually get the schooling and training required for those positions. And so these are some main contributing factors to the shortage of healthcare workers today. The relatively high education requirements required for the job, the lack of funding and incentives for workers in rural areas such as Jackson County and Cherokee, where most people want to work in Charlotte or Asheville, those big facilities with the big paychecks, but many people don't consider the rural areas which they have more bigger impact, since rural areas statistically have more people that are affected with substance abuse disorder or opioid use disorder. And also the third main factor is the prevalence of addiction has been exacerbated by COVID-19 pandemic, causing a massive increase in demand for substance abuse professionals. Like I said, the addiction therapists, addiction counselors, and psychologists to help with those addiction treatments. And for Jackson County, we have some statistics here. Substance misuse. Substance misuse originally emerged as a health priority during the 2011 CHA process, particularly concerning are the increases of overdose deaths, number of naloxone reversals, and lack of follow-up or education post-overdose and tobacco use. I also like to point out the Narcan shortages in these type of facilities. Narcan is helpful for reversing the effects of an overdose from substance abuse. Sorry. And with the shortage of Narcan, it's lessening the effects of it and also raising the statistics of overdose deaths currently in North Carolina and also United States of America. And for the Jackson County opioid deaths have surged in Western Carolina over the past decade. Jackson County overdose rate is higher than the state's per 100,000 individuals. And for mental health, because mental health and substance abuse are coincided with each other, previous data cycles show that resident mental health have been suffering, but the COVID-19 pandemic severely exacerbated the strain on our mental health, and the limiting systems to address it. Jackson County has had the highest suicide ideation percentage in all Western Carolina counties, and many report ongoing days of poor mental health and seeking treatment for mental health and not being able to get the mental health care they need. And we have some statistics here, but we can't really show them on the slide, so I'll just explain one of them in my own words. We have a mental health workforce statistic in North Carolina, and then today North Carolina, it's the percent of net need met, which means is defined as the ratio of available psychiatrists to the number needed to eliminate the HPSA designation. Calculations are based on number of uh, psychiatrists and do not include other mental health professionals, and the percentage is 13.4 versus the United States whole 28.1%, which is some massive numbers we see here. And also for tobacco and substance misuse in Jackson County, North Carolina, we have some statistics here. 28.4% unintentional poisoning deaths, that's overdose deaths, unintentional poisoning mortality rate of 100,000 population. And for opioid poisoning deaths, that we have a 12% rate of opioid poisoning deaths per 100,000 individuals. And for opioid prescribing rate, it's 68.1%, the rate of retail opioid prescriptions dispensed per 100 individuals.
And then, so for our loan forgiveness program that we wanted to implement, we kind of based it off of a New York program that we found. So in New York State, they created a licensed social work loan forgiveness program, and the purpose of the program was to increase the number of licensed social workers in like counties, rural counties around like New York City, but the counties that didn't have those professionals. And the awards under this program was a maximum of $26,000 or the applicant's eligible student loan indebtedness, whichever is less. So if they have $20,000 in student loans, then they would just agree to pay off the $20,000 of student loans if they agreed to stay in the county for at least 2 years. So that's kind of what we based our proposal on. And then our focus for Jackson County was to come up with a proposal trying to address this issue of the lack of funding and incentives for workers in rural areas. So our proposal idea was to implement this loan forgiveness program for students at Western Carolina University and possibly also the community college. And it would be like an award for service program that offers full or partial loan forgiveness for social workers who agree to work in a substance abuse related area in Jackson County for at least 2 years. And we came up with the idea of like 2 years because everybody is wanting to go to Asheville, so it makes a lot more sense for us to incentivize them to pay off all their student loans if they stay in Jackson County. And we did a little bit of research on the average student loan debt at Western, and it's $22,466. So our first proposal amount was possibly around $25,000 for maybe 15 students max each year, and 15 students would be staying in Jackson County and working in all those related areas as substance abuse counselors, and they would also get that work experience so they can go out to the big cities if they want to after the 2 years. But we would have them for those 2 years, and then the next 2 years do that program again. So the total amount for that would be $375,000, and then I'll let you take over on how this program
So
would help.
how this program would help, it would allow students who want to go in a field related to substance abuse to have their tuition and school fees paid for. And it will provide the students with great financial support from state or government and be a great incentive to get people to stay and work in rural areas. Some of the career ideas that these students could take on in Jackson County would be mental health workers, addiction counselors, certified peer support specialists, substance abuse counselors, recovery service workers, or social workers that specialize in clinical alcohol, tobacco, and other drug-related careers. And we've actually made a connection with the social work department in Western, and they would be interested in something like this. So that's kind of, we went with them, but I'm sure that the other areas would be interested as well. Some program eligibility requirements that we modeled from the New York program is that to be eligible for this, you'd be a North Carolina resident and have resided in North Carolina for 12 continuous months prior to applying for this program, be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen, have obtained their social work degree or emergency medical care degree, be in a non-default status on a student loan made under any North Carolina or federal education loan program or repayment of any North Carolina award, and be in compliance with the terms of any service condition imposed by a North Carolina award. Some of the program terms, we had some ideas about the money, but I'll talk about the realistic money we would ask for in the pilot program. But to receive this money, the student must sign a contractual agreement saying to work in Jackson County in the related fields for at least 2 years, like Sienna said. And the student must agree to work in a field regarding substance misuse that will help career areas with worker shortages. And any breakage of this agreement will result in paying back the money received. So after we talked to Commissioner Woody, we kind of thought a realistic idea to propose first would be a pilot program that would consist of about 2 to 5 students to see if this program could be reliable and actually work here. And the program could possibly offer 2 to 5 students a chance to receive $25,000 over a span of 5 years, which would entail $5,000 per person each year. And then after the students graduate, they would choose a healthcare facility in their respective rural areas to work with people and other substance abuse related issues.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for your time and letting us be able to present our proposal to you guys. This is a ongoing public health pandemic. The opioid crisis and the substance misuse crisis has been prevalent in the United States for a long, long time. And just getting us out there for public health awareness is key to helping us stop or decrease the rates of these horrible overdose deaths that millions of Americans are affected by today. So thank you for letting us present our.
Absolutely.
Could you stay there just 1 second? I want to get your picture. Thank you so much.
And I have a question, if I may. One, in your research on the suicides in Jackson County, was there a particular concern or area that, if your research showed that?
Yeah, so for our capstone, our professor kind of grabbed all the areas that are being most affected. So our focus was on the shortage of substance abuse workers. And so that was kind of mainly why we based our research around this. But I guess it's an ongoing problem. And we talked with, director of EMS and social work department as well, the head of social work department out of school. And they said it's a very big issue, especially because we don't really have any mental health care facilities around here to even help these overdoses. And a lot of people, like when he was talking about the need met, it said in all of North Carolina, there needs to be 199 more people in this field in order to actually meet the needs of these people who are experiencing overdoses. Because when they're going to the hospitals, they're not really having that treatment program afterwards. And so they're just going back to the same ways and overdosing again.
Thank you. And what's your majors?
Integrated health science is all of ours.
Integrated health sciences.
Y'all gonna stay in Jackson County for 2 years?
No, for 2
We
years.
wish you would.
Maybe if there was a loan forgiveness program, you might say.
Well, it's a great,
Isn't it
absolutely. I'm
great
very impressed
idea?
with your research and what you have come up with as a possible solution. And I think it is something that we will definitely consider because as we look ahead to the future with these settlement funds that'll be coming to this county, We'll be finding ways to impact people's lives.
That's right.
And I guess just this is just my personal reflection. I think you gravitate towards initially thinking of using that money to help the individual or maybe their family who has the substance abuse problem. But in essence, you're helping them and you're helping others by helping someone be a provider.
That's right.
And it's a whole different aspect. I never really had thought about it from that perspective. The only question I would have is, I know for this model to work, we'd have to have a guaranteed provider, a company, a institution, organization, whomever, that would provide a job. So is there the need, did you interview any organizations here locally that would have provided those jobs if this policy or plan had been in place?
Currently, we did not interview any other companies that would be specializing in those fields of like substance abuse disorder. Currently, we just wanted to make this proposal be like a realistic proposal for, instead of building a whole healthcare facility, we want to help the providers be able to get in contact with these people who do need help, and also like because of the shortage of healthcare workers today.
But there was another group in our capstone that was focused mainly on mental health. And I know they did a couple interviews with the one mental health facility that is in Silva. And they said that they came up with kind of an internship type program, but they were saying that they were needing workers and one of their like main directors had just passed away. So it would definitely work in like mental health in that area, I think.
Yeah, I know we just spent a significant amount of money on a revision to our pay plan, and with a huge focus on recruiting new employees. And I can see where this could be used as a recruitment tool in the private sector, maybe even in the public sector as well, in an area that's very much needed. So great job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Could you email that PowerPoint?
Oh, yeah.
Then we could have it just for reference. Like,
Yeah, I sent you an email of the PowerPoint.
okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank
Other
you.
questions or comments from these
I want
young?
to thank y'all very much, and it'd be really nice if y'all would stay in the county, because I'd say Jackson County's a better place because of y'all being here the last year.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Thank you guys for
Y'all
letting
good
us be here.
representing University.
We have such wonderful leaders in Jackson County. So.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 2 then, is our rezoning request from the Cullowhee Planning District. Once again, this is an item that we took up in the public hearing that was held prior to the start of this regular business meeting. Recognize Ms. Harkins to review, I think, the consistency statement and other supporting documents, anything else that needs to go along with this for us to move to approve.
So as I presented before, this is a map amendment request for the Cullowhee Community Planning Area, changing the subject property from institutional to commercial. The planning department has found that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan as well as the Cullowhee Small Area Plan. And we ask the commissioners to consider approval for the request. Also before you is a consistency statement for the board's approval as well. And I'm happy to answer any more questions you may have.
So we would be approving the suggested changes along with the consistency statement.
Yes, sir.
Any questions about what's been requested? I think it's important to note that it's gone through all the public hearing processes and everybody's in complete support of it. Okay.
Did the Cullowhee Planning Council have a public hearing?
Yes.
I might have asked this question already, but, and was there anybody against that and that spoke?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Well, do I have a motion then to approve the suggested amendments to the maps as well as the consistency statement?
I move we do so.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any questions or discussion about the motion? Hearing none then, Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Woody,
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds,
Yes.
Chairman McMahon.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Next is item 3, the JCPC certification and funding plan. And I think we have 2 presenters on this one, Ms. Carrie Tucker as well as Ms. Baker, our attorney. So ladies.
Okay, well, since you hear from me all the time, I'm really going to let you hear from Carrie. I just wanted to thank you and thank you to Dawn for appointing Carrie to JCPC a few months ago. She's been a tremendous help, and she has put this whole plan together, some of which you'll see tonight. A lot of it you don't see, but it's been a lot of work, and we've gotten to work together on that, and she's really doing a good job. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to her to present. I'll do your mouse.
Okay. So as you can see on the screen, the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council County Funding Plan for 2022-23. The amount allocated for this upcoming year from the state is $128,439, with a county match of $50,234. This plan shows you a breakdown of how the money is dispersed to each program. The money is dispersed through an RFP process. Each program has to apply for the funding. There are several changes for this upcoming year. Heights and Mountain Mediation are going to merge as of July 1st. Heights will still offer their initial programs, which are Compass, Inside Out, and Core. The reason for the merge is better funding opportunities. As a team, they will offer mediation as well as teen court/sentencing circles. Heights is on their second year of funding. This program applied for 2-year funding last year and was awarded $73,997. As of July 1st, when they merge, Mountain Mediation will be known as Heights Restorative Justice Options. They were allocated $25,037 for this upcoming year. And the final program we have is Hawthorne Heights, which is a temporary shelter for troubled youth, and they were allocated $28,621. And this next page is just the JCPC certification standards. It gives you a breakdown of our membership requirements, organizational procedures, meetings and times, and our planning process for 22-23. And this next page just shows you our active members of the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. And of course, we're very grateful to have Commissioner Dietz as a part of this council. I know he really enjoys learning about the programs and how beneficial they are to our community. He is a wonderful asset to the council. And we're also glad to have the knowledge of Commissioner Jones and all his experience with JCPC. And this final page is just our upcoming admin budget for the year. Each year, JCPC administration is allocated $740 for supplies, food, and provisions. That's just a breakdown of that. And we asked just today, looking for your approval to approve the JCPC County Funding Plan for 22-23 year.
Okay, we've heard the request from Ms. Tucker to approve this funding plan for the fiscal year 22-23, which is a local match of a little over $50,000 and $128,000, a little better than that from the state. What's the pleasure of the board? All right, we have a motion from our committee member, Mr. Boyce Dietz. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments about the motion? Mr. Jones?
Is there an approximate number of Jackson County youth that is being served through the program?
Last month's meeting, I believe there was 2 that were being served at Hawthorne Heights, which is the shelter, and maybe, how many do you think at Heights?
Yeah, it's quite a few when you're looking at Heights is doing restitution, so there's quite a few there. And then with they're starting up the teen court slowly, so we'll see that increase. But with the core programs, the after-school programs, and the programs that Heights does for suspended kids, it's quite a few youth. I don't. We can always bring the total number to you. We see that at the meeting, and we'll soon. Actually, we meet next week. We'll get a total number for the year. We can bring that. Yeah.
I'm very supportive, but it's always good to know how many's being helped and what this money's doing.
Well, and I'd just like to reiterate what Commissioner Jones said. I think The governor's crime commission money is really, a lot of its primary prevention, and they're trying to keep young people out of the court system and preventative. I just love that. And when I worked for the health department, my position was funded through juvenile crime commission money because we were in primary prevention. So I just want to say I'm very supportive of this. And Heights has been recognized statewide as doing an outstanding job with these disenfranchised youth, so it's good.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none then, Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Good job.
Next is item 4, offer to purchase from Joshua Tree Associates LLC, and this is resolution R22-07. Recognize Ms. Baker to go over this offer.
Okay. All right, well, this is a new offer to you on 2 particular lots. This is the offer here that came in. It's $2,500 on 2 lots. These 2 lots are in the Bearpin community. It's been a while since we've seen some of our lots from the Bearpin community come up for sale. We've still had a few of them on the list. And this is, again, part of the River Rock subdivision that went under so long ago, but Bearpin was one of the neighborhoods in that. And so this person offered, just sent this in the mail, but I reached out to him and told him there were some terms that we always require be included in our offer, that they understand that we do a non-warranty deed, that we sell it as is, and all of those terms. And I emailed that to him, and he responded and accepted those terms by email. So I didn't include that here, but we have that as well. And so this is the first lot, 42. One is lot 42 Bearpin, and did include these. Commissioner Jones show the assessed value on this one is $12,000, and then on the second one is also $12,000. So both of these are assessed and will come back on the tax rolls at a $12,000 value. Put this one here so you can see, of course, with the blue dots, you can see these 2 lots. This is Cullowhee Mountain Road down here, so you know where that is coming on the far side of Cullowhee Mountain Road, and then over in this area and in to the far left here in this area are some of the other River Rock lots that you've recently seen and accepted offers on. So that's just kind of to put it in perspective. There, it's hard on a map to get everything on it that you wanted, but I try and give you a perspective of where this is in the county. And this is just a little closer up view here. And then finally, this is our list and showing where these 2 are on the list. And we've owned these since 2017.
Now, this person's from Wyoming.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing a lot of right now. Yeah, a lot of people that do this type of investment, they'll probably turn around, hold it for some point, and then turn around later, maybe when the subdivision's active again, and try and sell them.
What will be the pleasure of the board? We have anyone feel so inclined to move forward on this? Is there anyone want to wait and do more research?
I say we make a motion to get rid of them.
Okay. So you're going to put forward a motion to accept the offer
Yes, sir.
and start the upset bid process? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All right, any question or discussion? If there are none, Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes.
Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries. Okay, let's take, how much time do you need, Don?
10 minutes.
All right, let's take about a 10-minute recess. Okay, I'll go ahead and call the meeting back to order. We'll pick back up now with item 5, which is the indoor pool update and financing discussions. I'll recognize Mr. Adams, and I think Ms. Fox as well is going to be presenting on some of this.
So yes, sir. I have, during the break, I passed out a couple of pieces of information that we'll be discussing. You will see a copy of the presentation that will be discussed with you. And then separately is a document titled Webster Bank. And we will refer to that in general terms, but for the most part, we will be referring to this presentation information itself. We do have some individuals Zooming with us today. As you can see from the presentation itself, it was put together by our financial consultants, Davenport Public Finance. And we do have today, we have Mitch, and he told me to just call him Mitch from Davenport, but I'm gonna take a stab at his name, Bergoglio, I believe, and I know I brutalized that name, so I'm sorry, Mitch. And then he is the senior vice president with Davenport. We also have Carson Wiley, who's a public finance analyst, and I believe we do have Ted Cole. He may be on by phone. He's a senior vice president also. The purpose of what I want to discuss with the board today is in regards to the type of financing that we're presenting to this board regarding the indoor pool itself. And so while I'm speaking, Mitch, if you would, go ahead and share your screen and go ahead and get that. And I'm going to eventually turn this over to Mitch to discuss some of this information with the board. But I am going to try to just give a little bit of preliminary information before we jump into it.
Yeah, and hey, Don, I'm not able to share my screen while the screen is being shared already. So if somebody wants to stop sharing, I can share mine.
All right, you should be good to go. So while he's setting that up, let's, if you recall earlier in the meeting, I mentioned to you that the timing of some of these issues are going to be very relevant to our discussions today. So before we jump into this project financing overview, let's just talk a little bit about how we've gotten to where we are today. As a reminder, we are scheduled to open bids June 2nd for this project. At the same time, we were proceeding forward with moving forward with getting bond ratings so that Jackson County could be rated so that we could go out to a public market and actually sell bonds. Currently, Jackson County is scheduled to meet with 3 rating agencies next Wednesday. And just basic information for the board, in order for us to sell bonds on the open market, we have to go out and get a financial rating so that people who are buying the bonds from us can make a determination on how safe our bonds are for them. And so it's just a traditional way how public financing occurs. And so we've been proceeding forward we've set up our credit presentation. We've scheduled our meetings with 3 bond rating agencies. Basically, that's S&P, Moore, and Fitch, and that is scheduled for next week. The idea being is once we received our bond rating and we opened bids, we would be in a position to sell bonds. And we also have to go through and for the board's information, we have to go through a local government commission process. We've already gone through and got the bonds approved, but they're involved in this process, and we went ahead and scheduled a sale date for these bonds on June 28th. So that is what has been set up for us to proceed forward with this project. So I'm going to just repeat myself real quick. We were going to get a bond rating within the next couple of weeks. We're going to open our bids June 2nd. Hopefully the bids come in within our means. Then we were going to proceed forward. There were going to be resolutions and so forth that was going to come before this board in June. And then we were going to do a public sale June 28th on these bonds. Well, last week, I got a phone call and some correspondence from Davenport, who are our financial consultants. And what they wanted to tell us was that unfortunately, we are running into a market right now where you've probably seen it on the news, where interest rates are quickly rising at this point. Okay, and I'm sure if you watch the news or read the paper, then you're familiar about as much as I am about what we're talking about. And so ultimately, last week, myself and Darlene, working with our financial consultants, we decided to follow through with some of their recommendations. And some of their recommendations were, instead of looking at selling the bonds on an open market, they wanted to see if there were banks out there who were interested in just outright buying our bonds. Okay? And so, come to find out, there are banks out there that are interested in just buying our bonds. So instead of having multiple buyers of our bonds, things of that nature, going out on a public market, we have individual banks who have actually followed through and given us a bid on buying our bonds. A couple things, the way it was explained to me, and Mitch, I don't want to jump too much ahead of you, is that ultimately the bond market is already anticipating these rate increases. They're already building it in. Our consultants know this because they pay attention to bonds. Bonds are sold every week in different markets. And so they pay attention to this, and they see that the bond market rates are drastically increased. Traditionally speaking, bond rates for us would be lower than a bank rate. But right now, the banks are not as far along in anticipating the rate increases as the bond market. So I believe, and I believe what you'll hear from Mitch, is that we're in a position now that if the board deems appropriate, that we can move forward and lock in interest rates today versus waiting 2 months, practically, almost 2 months, to allow, in that 2-month period, interest rates will increase. And then ultimately, we would be selling bonds in the open market where, again, you'll hear from our consultants to where we believe the interest rates will be significantly higher at the time. And so that is what we're here to discuss with the board today. We're not asking you to borrow the money today. What we're talking about today is locking in interest rates so that after we open bids, and you as a board decide which direction we're going to go, we have hopefully the best financing options available to us at the time versus waiting to some market that we're not aware of a month or 2 months, almost 2 months from now. So has everybody got any questions? I just want to make sure, just set the stage. And so, and since I believe it's last Thursday, we started this process, and our consultants have been working very hard for us, and they've gone out and they have gotten multiple bids in. And the reason I want to point that out is you're going to see in this presentation where they have consolidated 3 of the bids. That's because those bids came in early enough today that they could put together a nice report for you. We did end up getting a really last-minute submission. I mean, when I say last minute, I mean minutes before this meeting started, last minute. But I think we're not really going to talk a lot about this because just the initial view of this, we wouldn't recommend this. So I think we can just focus on the main presentation today. So having said that, Mitch, I will turn it over to you. Have I set you up, I guess, pretty good to maybe the stage for you to take us to the next part of this discussion?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. That was a great summary of where we are today. So just to reiterate a few of those things, with the public sale market process, we have our sale date scheduled for June 28th. That is when we can lock in interest rates for the public sale. And that public sale market is very transparent. The interest rates are published on a daily basis, and we can track those against other similarly rated and similar bond transactions that price in the public markets on a daily basis. So we feel like we've got a pretty good handle on where the public sale interest rates are in today's environment. But again, it's going to be subject to change until interest rates are locked in, until the bonds would be priced on June 28th. And like Don said, one of the impetuses of this conversation is what we've seen in the interest rate environment. This year, this calendar year, interest rates are up almost or a little over 1.7% since January for 15-year interest rates. And that rising interest rate environment has continued throughout this year, and it's actually picked up over the last couple months. In both March and April, interest rates were up each month by over 50 basis points or 0.5%. So seeing some larger increases month over month in the interest rates this year. Given where we're at today, with the project bids coming in on June 2nd, about a month from now, we're at a time where we're able to lock in interest rates with banks. Typically, banks will hold interest rates anywhere from 45 to 60 days, sometimes a little longer. So in order to lock in or request bank interest rates that could be locked in, we're kind of now in that window where we can consider this option. So what we've done over the last week or so is gone out and solicited some indications of interest from various banks for a direct bank loan. And that direct bank loan would be evidenced by a general obligation bond. So you're still offering the general obligation bond credit, still using the general obligation bond authorization that was approved in November of 2020. We are just using that GO authorization by using a bank loan as opposed to issuing bonds in the public market. So through that process, we identified that several banks would be interested, and then we formally requested term sheets from those banks. And summarized here are the 3 term sheets that we had right before the meeting: Capital One, Key Government Finance, and Truist Bank. And like Don said, Webster Bank submitted a proposal right before the meeting started. So what I'd like to do is walk you through some of the key considerations of these proposals that we received, and I'll let you know where Webster Bank stacks up amongst these interest rates as well. We do have a bit of a bigger picture on the interest rates on page 3 for you in this graphic. I'm happy to dive in, but I think the key takeaways are what we've said already, that interest rates have been rising. We're still in relative to long-term averages. We're still in a good interest rate environment. We're below the 15 or 20-year average for a 15-year rate right now. But rates are on the rise, which is why we'd like to consider locking this rate in if it makes sense. So a summary of the proposals we received is on page 4. And y'all, please feel free to stop me with questions along the way, or if it's too small, let me know. I'm going to try and zoom in here. But a summary of the proposals we received is on the screen. A couple of key terms and conditions I'd like to highlight for you. First is on line 1, and that is the interest rate. We did receive both 15 and 20-year interest rates from each of the banks: Key Bank, Truist, Capital One, and Webster. But in discussions with staff, we understand that have been planning for a 15-year amortization for the GO bond. And I think based upon these rates, these are within the planning rates that the county has been working with. So as of right now, I believe the plan is to move forward with the 15-year loan. So currently, the lowest rate we received from a bank is from Key Bank. That was a 3.228% interest rate. Truist provided an interest rate slightly higher at a 3.32%. Not shown here is Webster Bank. They were closer to Key Bank at a 3.24% interest rate. Another key consideration, we believe, is the prepayment provisions offered by the bank. In the public markets, typically you would have a 10-year non-callable period. So when you issue the bonds in the public market, you're not able to prepay the bond for the first 10 years. All of these banks provided a little more flexibility than that with their prepayment language. Key Bank, shown on line 3, provided the best flexibility. They will allow you to prepay the loan in whole at any time without a penalty. They will also consider partial prepayments. So if you don't want to pay off the entire loan, they will consider allowing for a partial prepayment, but that does require their consent. Webster Bank provided slightly worse prepayment provisions, or slightly less flexible prepayment provisions than Key Bank did. They had a non-prepayable period of time before the loan could be prepaid. And Truist, similar to Webster, they offered a couple of alternatives. You can either prepay the loan at any time with a 1% prepayment penalty, or you could have a non-prepayment period for the first half of the loan. So for the first 7.5 years, the loan would not be prepayable, and then you could prepay it without penalty thereafter. The other key point that I want to point out for you is both Key Bank and Webster Bank will require an acceptance ahead of any closing on the loan. So in order to lock in this Key Bank interest rate, we have to accept the loan or accept their terms by May 6th. That's this Friday. In making that acceptance, we would be letting Key Bank know that we are moving forward with them in good faith, and we want to lock in that interest rate. If something were to happen and we were not able to close by their closing deadline, which is June 17th, there would be no penalties owed by the county, but the interest rate would be subject to change again at that point in time. Webster had a very similar approach. They would require an acceptance by May 13th and a closing by June 17th. And Truist will not require any acceptance, and they will give a slightly longer period of time to close. They will give an extra 10 days through June 27th. We did want to note that Key Government Finance did offer an interest rate that would be fixed through July 15th, so going out a whole nother month, but that does come with an increased interest rate. That interest rate would be right at a 3.44%, up from the 3.23% they're currently offering in order to lock the rate in for an extra month. So those are some of the key terms that we wanted to point out, and we'll put this in terms of dollars for you on the next page. And I'll go through some of these highlights on this page as well. We have summarized for you in column B the Key Government Finance proposal. That's the lowest interest rate at a 3.22% for a closing through June 17th. We've also shown you the Key Government Finance alternative rate on column C, which is good through a July 15th closing. That's the 3.439% interest rate. Column D, we have the Truist proposal at the 3.32%. as well as the Capital One, which was the highest interest rate at a 3.44%. And the two public sale options, we're showing you two different options on the public sale. This is a range of potential outcomes for the public sale. On the low end, our estimates are a little over 3%. And on the higher end, estimates of about 3.14% interest rate for the public sale.
So I want to stop right there to make sure we understand. This one gets a little convoluted. That's if we sold when? Like last week, correct?
Yeah, so
Okay.
so these public sale interest rates are based on market interest rates as of today.
Okay.
And they are informed by the last North Carolina GO bond sale, which occurred last Tuesday. That was for the town of Morrisville, which was a AAA rated bond issuance. So slightly better rating than we're estimating Jackson County would be rated.
So
But
I just want to jump in real quick. So we want to point that out. First of all, this is a AAA rating, so you would think we would be more toward, if we sold today, we'd be more towards the 3.137, right? Because we're a AA, we would be a AA. So the reality is, I just want to say that's of today. That's the reason he's given you the information previously about we're seeing interest increase between, you've seen the history in the last 2 months going 0.5% per month. So the reality is we're even though it looks like we're locking in a little bit higher rate today, we're comparing that to if we sold today, but we're not going to sell today. We're going to sell 2 months from now. So what, if you're projecting, I hate to put you on the spot, but what would be your projection of the rates 2 months from now?
right. Well,
yes.
I give the standard answer that if I knew that, I would probably be doing something else. But that the reality is, we're in a rising interest rate environment. Folks who are willing to put out estimates or estimating that or projecting that we're going to be in a rising interest rate environment. And while past performance isn't always going to tell us what happens in the future, we have seen a rising trend over the last several months, and that is expected to continue here in the near term. So do think there's a reasonable expectation that rates will be higher when we get to that public sale date on June 28th. And I think that's the other key consideration here on line 16 that we've highlighted. Both Key Government Finance, BNC, and Truist, those interest rates are locked in right now. Again, with Key, so long as you accept by May 6th. Those interest rates are locked in, not subject to change, so long as we can close by the stated closing date for each of those proposals. Whereas, again, the public sale, we're not going to lock that interest rate in until June 28th.
Okay. Well, I think that's proved that. We can come back to that. Go ahead and jump to the next. Let's get to your recommendations on your next page there.
Yep, sure thing. So based upon these trends, we are recommending that we move forward with this direct bank loan funding approach with either Key Bank or Truist Bank. And the key considerations there, Key Bank is providing the lowest interest rate, and they are providing the most flexible prepayment terms. But they do have the shortest closing date of June 17th. Truist Bank provided a slightly higher interest rate, but they will allow an additional 10 days to get to closing should there be a delay in the bidding process. That extra 0.1% or 10 basis points on the interest rate equates to around $120,000 to $130,000 over the life of the loan in total interest cost. And I know, Don, you had mentioned earlier in the meeting about the bidding process and the pre-qualification. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that timing differential between KeyBank and Truist Bank.
So there was a lot of discussion, just so you know, among staff and Davenport in regards to this. This also goes back to the previous meeting when I was mentioning to the board that when we open bids, then it may require some extra meetings of the board to decide how to handle whatever the bid amounts are, if you recall that. The reality is the lower interest rate, if we have to close by June 17th, from a bonding standpoint, a legal standpoint, financing standpoint, they all say that that can easily be done. Ultimately, if we open bids June 2nd, and the reason I say if we open bids, the only way we can actually open those bids is to have 3 in hand. If 2 bids show up, we cannot open those bids. We have to re-advertise, and then we won't be able to open those bids until June 14th, June 13th to 14th. I have to re-advertise. Once you re-advertise, if a 3rd bid doesn't show up, this is state law, guys. If the 3rd bid doesn't show up, then we can open up the 2 bids. So the reality is a required closing date of June 17th potentially puts you in a position to where you're literally opening bids re-advertise open bid 13th to 14th and truly making a final decision by the 17th. Now, if it's a cash decision, again, you as a board made that choice earlier about an additional couple $1 million. If it's a cash decision, that is not going to be a problem. We also could try to negotiate and reduce the cost of the contract and things of that nature. What he's describing is if we have to open it up June 13th or 14th, the June 27th date gives us maybe a couple of weeks to work with the contractor, things of that nature before we close. This is all an issue if I don't get to 3 bids. Right now, that's the reason I say we have 5 qualified contractors at this point saying we believe we're interested. If we open bids June 2nd, then the reality is you have a couple of weeks to figure it out. I mean, it's no different than what I'm describing. So at the end of the day, if the number comes in so high, another way that we've looked at this, again, I'm not asking for a decision from the board now, but if the number comes in so high that you can't deal with it from a cash standpoint, that you have to go and talk about loaning money again, okay? First of all, that's a policy issue you would have to decide. But the second part of it is we'd have to go back to the local government commission. So we wouldn't be able to close on June 17th or June 27th. You understand what I'm saying? Because the local government commission only meets once a month. And so I think where Darlene and I have finally wrapped ourselves around on this timeline, really no matter what happens, if you're not able to fund it with this loan, with the loan and the cash you decided to put it up by June 17th, then you're going to be most likely in the month of July anyways, because, and again, why does that matter? That's because at that point, we have to release all these interest rates that we're saying we're able to tie up. But if you're not able to do it with cash, then you're going to be in the month of July anyways. And so if that's the case, then the reality is I think where we've come to the conclusion is, well, just take the lowest interest rate.
Are there any consequences to locking in a lower rate today and we get to June and we can't close? We can't accept the bids. We got to rebid. We got too high numbers, whatever the case may be, and then it pushes us into this July conversation. Is there any consequences to us taking action today to lock in a rate?
Well, I think you heard from Mitch that there are no penalties for not closing on that loan June 17th. So the only, that's correct. Is that correct, Mitch?
Yes, sir. That's correct. There's no penalties if we're unable to close on the loan.
So the only consequence is we're dealing with the interest rates in July versus the rate we just locked in June. I mean, is that correct? I mean, that's the only. So that's where we've evolved around to where we've had a lot of conversations on this in regards to what really, when you came and spoke to me today, we just had that one bid hanging out there. It's the reason that I couldn't give a definitive answer. But at this point, The LGC has also said the LGC has to put this on their agenda. And the LGC is a local government commission, just a reminder to everybody and to the public. North Carolina municipalities and local governments and counties, we are regulated by the North Carolina Local Government Commission. We have to get their permission to do these types of transactions. They are aware of what we're doing. They actually are okay in encouraging us to do this, to the point where they have put this issue, they will put this on the June 7th LGC board meeting so that we can move forward and they can approve us moving forward with this. So I just want to point out that it's not only just our consultants is recommending, we've got the local government commission, everybody's recognizing that we believe these interest rates are going up. And so, excuse me, the point being is if for some reason or another the bid gets delayed, the LGC is willing to move forward with approving this June 7th. Because remember, I told you I can't open the bids up until June 13th if it got delayed, with the understanding that we would have to, if we close the loan, we'd have to figure out how to cash it. So I guess my point is we've got the local government commission trying to work with as best they can too within their rules and regulations to try to help us all get the best rate we can get for this project. And so what's behind these documents are the actual, and we'll get to it, but are the actual agreements, what we would ask this board to approve. And so right now, the recommendation from county staff, from Darlene and myself, the recommendation from Davenport is for us to proceed forward a transaction like this. Their recommendation is for us to take a look at either Key or Truist. And staff is saying, we feel like there's no difference between the two timing-wise. We recommend Key. And if you go with that recommendation, then we would ask that you vote to approve. What would you call this from Key? What is that technically called?
It's a term sheet.
It's a term sheet.
It's a term sheet for the 2022 GO bond for a direct bank loan approach.
With all the terms we just described, and that's really the next document. If you scroll next, you can see the cover page. Let's just go ahead and scroll so the public can see what I'm talking about. So that's really all that is within multiple pages describing what we summarized to the board. And if the board chose to vote on this tonight, that would allow us to lock in the rate this week. And then we would need to come back next week. And there is a resolution that the LGC wants you to formally adopt. And they're fine doing it after we've locked in the rate. And we would want you to formally adopt that resolution next Tuesday. That's correct, right, Mitch?
Yep, that's right. So just looking for a little bit of direction this evening. And if Key Bank is the direction, just saying it's okay to enter into that term sheet by Friday, May 6th, to lock in that interest rate. And then we would come back on May 10th with a formal resolution that confirms or affirms this direct bank loan approach and some of those other details.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and say, based on what we've heard here tonight, I think this is a pretty straightforward, knowing what we know about the interest rates. I would move that we adopt the term sheet, the 2022 term sheet, and enter into agreement with Key Bank to lock in this rate. Someone like to second that?
A second.
Questions or comments? Here again, I think the key thing with this proposal is that there are no consequences. There's no negative for us just doing this. And it gives us a little time. And if worst case scenario, we look at other options down the road, but I think this is a good opportunity.
Mr. Chairman, I did forget to mention one other positive about moving forward with this. If you recall, I said we have scheduled meetings with the rating agencies next Wednesday. That was going to cost the county to the tune of about $20,000 per rating agency, $60,000. If you proceed forward with this, we will not hold those meetings and we will not expend $60,000. You remember we talked about the $200,000 closing cost? That was part of all of the closing costs that we were saying that we'd have to bring, and that would also negate the need to do that.
And go ahead.
Well, I have a question, and if by some unforeseen possibility, interest rates went down between now and the time we give those out, if we accept this, are we locked into that? We couldn't go with selling bonds?
No, that's my point about if you want to sell bonds and risk, we have to meet with the rating agencies next Wednesday. We spend the $60,000. All that has to be timed out exactly. So that is really the kind of the whole point about trying to assess what the market's going to do, and there's value of knowing for sure what the rate is going to be. There's a lot of value in that.
And there's a big value from a budget standpoint.
Oh, yes.
As we finalize our budget and look forward to what these payments are going to be as we build all this in.
Yes.
Being able to know this before the end of June.
Mm-hmm. And if the Truist Bank is 0.1% higher than Key, and it's 120 to 130,000 over the course of the loan, if we wait and it goes up 0.5%, 1 month and 0.5% another month, you're looking at $1.5 million added to the cost of I'm just your numbers.
I haven't read, but it would be if trends. Mitch, I'm going to bring you in on this. So if trends go forward, and again, this is an if, the question is if we did have to pay another 0.5% to 1% above what we're discussing today, do you have a means to talk about what that really would mean if the trend stayed?
Yes, sir. I mean, I guess what, just looking at the numbers back on page 5, going from a 3% interest rate to a 3.4% interest rate costs you about $800,000.
Okay.
So call it around $1 million for a 0.5% difference in the interest rate.
Yeah.
That's in round numbers.
Any other questions or comments concerning the motion?
So this is the best deal we can get. We're not under any obligations if something happens. If something happens that the bid comes really in high, we don't have no, we can't control that. It's something we don't know about, so we need to do the best thing tonight, and this is the best thing to do
Absolutely.
tonight.
That's correct. Any other questions or comments? Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mitch.
Item 6.
Sir, thank y'all.
Thank you very much. We won't butcher your name like Don did, so we just call you Mitch.
I did great. I was impressed.
We call him Jerry. He didn't tell you that's what his name is. All right, item 6, conflict of interest policy. Who's going to present this one?
Okay. Yeah.
Ms. Baker.
All right, so we added this on tonight. We've had a lot of grants that have come up recently that are requiring a conflict of interest policy, and we've kind of dealt with those on a case-by-case basis, but there's enough now, especially with all the ARPA money coming into the community, which involves some federal funds, that we're going to see this a lot, and we thought the best thing to do was just to bring you a policy and see if you can go ahead and approve that policy, so we'll have it in place for some upcoming grants and projects that we're working on. This, just so you know, it mirrors state law. You're already already, both as county employees, as public officials for the county, we're already under an obligation here for everything that's here, and the statutes are cited. And then also at the end, you'll see directly quoted from our human resource manual, the portion from our manual about conflicts of interest, so that's in here as well. So we're not adding anything or making anything more restrictive, just putting it all together in a policy. So we will have this approved to hand grantors or others as they request it.
Any question about what's being presented? This is a new item, and normally we don't rush to put these out, but we do have some grant opportunities that, as has been stated, we need to comply with, and we already do this. It's already in place. We have our own unwritten policy. We have been abiding by every one of these bullet points, but just to be very clear from the state's perspective, we're putting this into a policy and adopting it.
Would you like a motion, Mr. Chairman?
A motion would be in order.
Motion to approve the conflict of interest policy as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Other questions or comments?
This thing about gifts, I know in the past we've gotten oranges or candy that's put in the office.
If you eat it real quick, you don't have to worry about it.
Oh, because I ate those, I'll tell you what, those chocolate-covered almonds were really good. But those.
How many did you eat, Gail?
Never mind.
They're true.
Never mind. Did you get any?
No, I think
See?
that's why.
There you go. There you go. But that kind of thing, my understanding is that if it's given to all of us and it's just out there for everyone, it's not coming under this thing about a gift.
Correct. We put it out and share it, and yes.
Okay.
If somebody gives all of us something, it's no problem.
Well, may I make a comment?
Okay.
One time, the commissioners attempted to receive a gift, a presentation of a business in Dillsboro. And they did the Dillsboro Monopoly game and sold it at their business. And after they did their little presentation, then she gave each of us a Monopoly game, and we couldn't take it.
You can take souvenirs, but that probably crosses that line beyond souvenirs. So, I mean, there's a lot of gray area on some smaller items like that. Anytime you have a question, I can always help you work through that. Okay. But yeah, we're not changing anything here. We're just putting what's already in place into this policy. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes.
Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries. And while Ms. Baker is at the podium, we also, under old business, the final offer for the 2.5 acres on Scotts Creek Township.
Yes, if you'll remember, this property was a property, I think Chairman McMahon actually explained it the best, was out in the Scotts Creek area. It really has a need of a bridge that needs to be replaced to even access it, and I don't believe it has water or sewer, and we have made that clear to everyone who bid. The original bid was $600, did receive a couple of upset bids, and this was the highest, and the successful upset bidder is the $2,550 offer from Mr. Cox. And so
Totally different bidder.
yeah, this is a new, this was a new bidder. It was upset once, and then this was a new upset bid for the
This is
$2,550.
someone from Jackson County.
Yeah, I see that. So.
And so since this went through the upset bid process and this was not the original bidder, it does require approval from you to move forward with the sale.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board concerning this bid?
I move we accept this bid.
Okay, I have a motion to accept. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right. All right, motion and a second. Any question or discussion? Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Deeds?
Yes.
Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries. Next is our legislation, which is item 8. This is a carryover of the bridge naming request in resolution R22-08. Is there interest from the board to take action on this today, or I know we carry this one over to give us a chance to research and do some further discussions. Do we still need time? Anybody need? Okay. All right. Do we have what would be the pleasure of the board concerning this resolution?
I'd make a motion to approve the bridge in Dillsboro to be the Wade and Becky Wilson Bridge, Resolution 22-08.
All right. Motion has been made to approve R22-08. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussions about this? Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Woody,
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds,
Yes.
Chairman McMahon.
Yes, motion carries.
And if it pleases the board, you know, the town of Hillsborough was really behind this whole much. I would, they've taken the lead on this, so the idea of, you know, the donation for the $2,000 for the sign costs and so forth, I would just request Hillsborough to continue on taking the lead on this project. So.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Appointments. Number 9, Agriculture Advisory Board. It's 2 appointments. I remember right, it's been a while since I've read this letter from Jane Fitzgerald. William Shelton and Joe Grasty have agreed to continue in their terms if reappointed. So what's the pleasure of the board concerning William Shelton and Joe Grasty being reappointed to the Agriculture Advisory Board?
I would like to move that we do so. Appoint William Shelton and Joe Grasty.
Okay.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second.
Yes. Well, it's my appointment.
Oh, well, William Shelton was.
Joe Grasty is Commissioner Deeds'.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second. Any question or discussion to reappoint these 2 individuals? Madam Clerk, if you call roll, please.
Commissioner Deeds,
Yes.
Commissioner Woody,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Chairman McMahon.
Yes, motion carries. Next is item 10, which is the Cullowhee Planning Council. And I think we have 4 seats open, 4 appointments that we can make. Now, Mr. Poston, help me make sure, because Commissioner Stribling and I were talking about this before the meeting started. Mr. Bennett is not eligible for reappointment.
Correct. Mr. Claxton is the only one that's eligible for reappointment. He is willing to serve again, and Mr. Claxton also serves as the chair of the Cullowhee Planning Council. But Mr. Lewis, Mr. Setzer, and Mr. Bennett have served on that planning council since the inception and have reached their 2-term maximum and aren't eligible for reappointment.
So for tonight's sake, we could go ahead and reappoint Mr. Claxton, who is the chair, and allow them to continue on, and then that will give Commissioner Stribling an opportunity to come up with a name for his appointment, for Commissioner Dietz to be able to come up with a name for his appointment unless he has one tonight.
How long has Joel Setzer been on there?
Since the beginning.
2016.
Darn, that long.
Yeah. And then we'll have one other additional at-large to come up with. So would someone like to move to reappoint David Claxton?
I move that we reappoint David Claxton to the Cullowhee Planning Council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any question or discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Woody,
Yes.
Commissioner Deeds, Chairman McMahon.
Yes, motion carries.
We'll come up with some others.
Yes, and I know Mike will help us. And if he won't, then we'll get Anna to help us. And then the final one is the Historic Preservation, item 11. I think there are 3 appointments. Commissioner Woody, appointee. Any of these term limited?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Commissioner.
I'll just mention that the Webster appointment is Mr. Reinhardt, and he's no longer able to serve. He's no longer in the area full-time. So Webster, you have that Woody has a position and Commissioner Jones has a position. Ms. Hare is no longer able to serve on the board, even though she's eligible for reappointment. So that leaves 3 positions open for board's consideration.
Okay. Commissioner Woody, do you have a name?
No, I've been working on that, and I would like to carry that
Okay.
forward, please.
Commissioner Jones, do you have
I'd
a
like
name?
to- Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion for Celeste Pratt to be appointed to this, to take Connie Hare's slot on the Historic Preservation Committee.
And would you be interested in also a part of your motion to go ahead and approve Brandon Core from Webster?
And also include Brandon Core to the Historic Preservation Commission.
All right, so we have Brandon Core representing Webster, and then, what was your name again?
Celeste Pratt.
Celeste Pratt is Commissioner Jones' appointee. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any question or discussion about the appointments? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Deeds? Commissioner Woody?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Chairman McMahon?
Yes, motion carries, and we'll carry the other one over when Ms. Woody can get a name.
Thank you.
Anyone on from the press corps online? Okay. We do have the one closed session real estate. Anything else in addition to that one?
No, sir.
Okay. We promise this one won't take very long. And then we're going to come back out and recess this meeting. So let's go into closed session concerning real property 143-318-11-5, A5. Have a motion to do so?
So move.
Is there a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.